Well, now to a company whose business is booming. Britannia Hotels, the name behind some of the most popular budget hotels in the UK, as well as the famous Pontins holiday parks. But I'm afraid for such a well-established company, it doesn't have the best reputation for customer service. In fact, quite a number of unhappy customers, plus the consumer organisation Which, say its customer service does stand out, but for entirely the wrong reasons. That's especially disappointing for a business that managed to post a £33.3 million profit in 2016. Well, all this has prompted us to take a closer look, not just at what might have gone wrong in this case, but also at customer service in general, so that if you ever have to make a complaint to a big name, you'll know how to boost your chances of getting it resolved. The finest collection of historic and iconic hotels. Affordable accommodation in the best locations. Competitive pricing offering real value for money. Over its 40-year history, the Britannia Hotels Group has established an impressive portfolio of properties, with its 54 hotels offering 9,000 bedrooms across the UK. But we've been hearing from guests who say their experience certainly didn't match up to the grandeur of the surroundings. Margaret and Roger Bolton from Salford got in touch with us after their trip to the Britannia Hotel in Edinburgh. They'd booked a room to celebrate their silver wedding anniversary and even ordered flowers and champagne for when they arrived.
I was really excited. I thought this is going to be something special. It's going to be a lovely room.
They'd splashed out £470 for 3 nights in the Excelsior suite. It was a special occasion after all. But when they checked in, they felt things were rather different from what they'd expected.
Straight away I noticed the carpet hadn't been hoovered. The room didn't look clean. The windows were filthy. I walked into the ensuite toilet and there was mould all over the sink. The toilet seat hadn't been cleaned. It was just horrible. Come on.
But what really took Margaret and Roger aback was the reaction when they took their complaints to the reception desk.
When we complained at reception, we just got met with blank faces. There was no response. The only response we got was, we don't give refunds.
The couple were offered alternative rooms, which they felt were worse than the first one. And after some further negotiation, reception staff also offered a 10% refund. But Margaret felt her special trip had been ruined, so when she returned home, she made a formal complaint.
I sent an email to Britannia Customer Services. I also sent an email to the manager of the Britannia Hotel in Edinburgh, and I didn't get any response. I've tried phoning the hotel manager in Edinburgh, and he was never there. He did not respond to me at all.
4 months later, by which time Margaret had given up hope of ever hearing back from Britannia, a manager did call, promising to try and secure a full refund. But that didn't materialise, so Margaret tried chasing, but heard nothing further. And all that was, wait for it, 2.5 years ago. Now, by anyone's standard, that's a long time to wait for a final response to a complaint.
I felt absolutely gutted. I was just being brushed under the carpet, basically. They were not interested.
Margaret and Roger aren't the only people who've written to us expressing unhappiness with the customer service they've had from Britannia Hotels. Jeremy Blanchard from Oxford stayed at the group's famous Adelphi Hotel in Liverpool in September 2016. It's described on the company's website as luxurious, but Jeremy begs to disagree.
We got to our room, very, very tired, unclean, seriously worn carpets. Sitting on the bed, one of the legs was broken, at which point we decided to go and rejoin the queue in reception and to ask for another room.
And he was offered one, but again he wasn't impressed.
The bath was full of what can only be described as human hair. A room that's been cleaned should not have that level of filth remaining.
Jeremy claims the reception desk was busy with other dissatisfied guests, so he decided to wait till he returned home to make his complaint.
The next morning, we just couldn't get away quickly enough. We didn't want to spend a minute longer in that hotel than we had to. It became very apparent that service was just so far away from being a priority. we just decided to cut and run.
Jeremy had booked his room through an independent website, so sent his complaint off to them. And although that company responded swiftly and sympathetically, the communication dried up once it got in touch with Britannia on his behalf. Jeremy says he was eventually told by the website that Britannia had said unless he'd complained at the time, in person, there was nothing that could be done, and that's left him very annoyed.
I wouldn't stay in one of the hotels ever again knowing how they deal with customers' complaints, albeit after the event. If I pay £175, I expect a level of service which was way, way off the mark.
Now, of course, when it comes to complaints, what one person considers a huge problem may simply be a little niggle to someone else. But either way, what we all expect is an answer and to have our concerns taken seriously. And according to the people we've heard from, that's not always the case when it comes to Britannia. In fact, we've received more complaints in our inbox about this company than for any other UK hotel chain, and the common theme is the response, or rather the lack of it, there's been from the company. What's more, it isn't just Rip-Off Britain viewers voicing such concerns. The review website TripAdvisor has a complaints thread going back over 10 years. Of course, the chain has many happy customers as well. There are hundreds of reviews rating some of the hotels as excellent on TripAdvisor too. But in a report by the consumer body Which that rated 33 of the UK's hotel chains for customer satisfaction, Britannia Hotels came bottom, and not for the first time, which doesn't impress Helen, who's been advising consumers about how to complain for over 30 years.
In the most recent Which survey on hotels, the Britannia chain came bottom for the 4th year running. So what does that tell us about customer service? Well, it tells us that they care very little for it. They're clearly not listening to feedback. It's coming from the top. And nothing's going to really change until people start voting with their feet or start asserting their legal rights and complain effectively.
But when we contacted Britannia Hotels about the complaints we'd received, the company stressed customers are its #1 concern, saying it takes every complaint seriously and as a matter of high priority. What's more, it said it would contact the people in both the cases we spoke to and resolve their complaints. And it's done just that, giving both Margaret and Roger and Jeremy full refunds on their stays. While that's great news, all of them would rather things had been resolved sooner without needing to contact us. But Helen believes that many of us find complaining, and complaining with confidence, really difficult to do. She reckons that explains why we don't always get the results we want, and why companies are able to prosper even if they don't have the best reputation for customer service. Helen herself is evangelical about complaining and wants us all to get better at it. So she's taken to the streets of Sevenoaks in Kent to find out what action the people there would take if they'd had a disappointing hotel stay.
So have you ever had to complain about a hotel?
I probably should have. The TV wasn't working. And I really should have complained at the time, but I didn't. Stiff upper lip sort of thing.
Why did you not complain?
I actually felt guilty about complaining.
You felt guilty?
It's strange.
What do you think it is about the British that makes us not want to complain?
As a nation, we're probably quite unassuming. We're reluctant to make a fuss. My wife is definitely the complainer. She's far stronger than I am, and she wears the trousers.
Well, I was in Scotland and I arrived with my mum and my sister, and the sheets were questionable. You know, when you sort of touch them and they're a bit damp. Yeah,
not nice.
Exactly.
Did you complain when you got home?
Well, to be honest with you, I just stayed well clear. We put that experience to a side and carried on with our lives.
No, don't be put off. The British are so put off and they're fobbed off, so don't do it next time. Get them.
So if you ever find yourself staying at a hotel that doesn't live up to expectations, what can you do to improve your chances of getting a complaint resolved? Well, Helen has 2 key pieces of advice. The first is, start complaining straight away.
Hello, reception.
If you're not happy with your hotel or your accommodation provider, complain at the time if you can, because that's the best way to try and give them an opportunity to put things right. If you're not able to, or you're rushing for a train, when you get home, complain to head office. And you need to say that they're in breach of the Consumer Rights Act 2015 by not providing services with reasonable skill and care. That way you're going to get listened to far more than if you don't mention the law.
If you don't complain at the time, the hotel might reasonably say things couldn't have been that bad. As for Helen's second tip,
keep evidence of everything. So you want to be filming your room, taking photos, so you've got all the evidence should you need to take the matter further.
that way, Helen says, your chances of getting results are greatly improved.
We need to get more effective in our complaining so that we don't get fobbed off.